must be exactly. Okay, you know, normally for lay practitioners in early years of understanding the Dhamma, and when we hear about the five aggregates, they are often talked as form and mind, body and mind.
Nama Rupa, I mean.
Nama Rupa. So Nama is also mind, isn't it? Is it mind?
That Nama Rupa used in the suttas is a bit different from Nama Rupa used in Abhidhamma. In Abhidhamma, Nama Rupa refers to mind and matter. You know, anything that's mental is classified under Nama. Anything that is physical is classified under Rupa. That is an Abhidhamic term. In the suttas, it's different. In the suttas, if you look at the dependent origination, you have Vijnana Paccaya Nama Rupang. Nama Rupa Paccaya Salayatana. Right? So Vijnana, because of Vijnana, with Vijnana as condition, there is Nama Rupa. Okay. Now Nama is defined in the suttas as 5 mind states. Okay. One is Sanya, Vedana, Cetana, Passa and Manasikara. Okay, translated to English, that means Vedana, feelings, perception, volition, and then Passa is contact, and Manasikara is attention. And according to Abhidhamma, these are all Cetasikas. You know, 5 types of Cetasikas. These are called Nama, and it does not include Vijnana. Right? Vijnana is the cause and condition for these 5 mental phenomena plus Rupa to arise. Okay? But in the Abhidhamma, Nama refers to all things mental, which includes Vijnana as well. Can you see that? So, I mean, when you talk about the early days, when you learn Buddhism and all that, now, they are all, most of these interpretations and terminologies are based on the Abhidhamma. So when you go to Vipassana centers, you'll say, oh, there's only Nama Rupa, there's only mind and matter. They're talking about the Abhidhamma usage of the word Nama Rupa. Okay? But, what is his name? Professor Kwan has researched into this, and as I mentioned earlier in the introduction to the Satipatthana Sutta, he says that the Buddha initially started off with Kaya Gata Sati, or Kaya Sati. And that word Kaya does not mean the body, you know, it means the self, like Sakkaya Ditti, you know, self-view, you know, that's of Kaya. So that Kaya Gata Sati refers to mindfulness directed at the self in terms of the subject-object relationship. Later on, you know, he came to refine his teachings and introduce the Satipatthana, the four establishments of mindfulness. And then, you know, inside there are the aggregates and so forth. So we have different schemes. You know, for example, you have the Kaya scheme of subject-object relationship, and then you have the 5 khandas, and then you have the 6 sense bases, and then you have the 4 Satipatthanas, and they are actually linked. They can actually be linked together. For example, in the Satipatthana, the 4 foundations can be linked with the 5 khandas, in the sense that Kaya refers to the Rupa, right? Not it is equivalent to the Rupa, to form, and then Vedana, of course, to the Vedana aggregate, feeling aggregate, and then according to Professor Kwan, he prefers to put Sankhara and Sanya under Sankhara and Vijnana, which means mental formations, volitional formations, and consciousness under Cittanupassana. And then put Sanya under Dhammanupassana. Because there's a lot of Sanya in Dhammanupassana. Yeah, recognizing and acknowledging things. Okay, any more questions? Yes, please.
Just now when we practice the meditation, we started with Kaya Nupassati, and later we have to change to Citta Nupassati.
Kaya Nupassana to Citta Nupassana.
Yeah, Kaya Nupassana to Citta Nupassana. So I want to ask whether is there any clear-cut point that we need to switch our meditation No.
No. This one is just, to start you off. Actually, if you're already well versed with Cittanupassana, you can do it anytime. Anytime you can just take your mind, ask yourself, what is the mind state like at this moment? Is there greed, hatred, delusion? Is it sloth and torpor? Is the mind distracted? Is it composed? At any time, even now you're talking to me, you can do your Cittanupassana.
Okay, so just now when I started with Anapanasati,
Yes.
and when Bhante said, okay, switch to watch your mind, the breathing was still strong, so I could observe the breathing, and Bhante said, see whether there is any desire. So I could see
The
I
desire
have
of
the
wanting to cling
desire
to
to bring the attention to the breath.
Yes.
So
yes.
is that permissible, or that
That's
is
permissible.
is that a right practice? Because at the same time, I also feel that I also could see that there is also a desire for the pleasant feeling to continue, even though we can note there is a rising and falling. So
good.
the first observation and desire for the breath, is that okay? Because that will lead us to continue our meditation. And I think the second part might not be so right, because it is a desire for pleasant happiness. Yeah. Maybe Bhante can advise.
Actually, let me. Okay, please sit down. I would just like to share something that I learned in my younger days, when I was understudying with Sayadaw Pandita. That was back in the 80s. A long time ago, when I was in the Mahasi meditation center in Yangon, and I was Sayadaw Pandita's translator for his Western yogis. Actually, there were two occasions. One, it was in Yangon, and the other was in Barre, Massachusetts. There were some yogis who had been doing Anapana for some time, and they find it very difficult to switch to rising and falling. So, because of the repeated requests, the Sayadaw Pandita allowed them to use Anapana. So the observation was, one of them had done rising and falling before, and then he gave this preference to Anapana because he said he could get more samadhi more quickly, faster by doing Anapana than doing rising and falling. So Sayadaw Pandita allowed him to do so. And then he noticed in the course of his practice that he didn't progress very far like he used to when he was doing rising and falling. And the reason became very clear. It's because when he was doing the Anapana, he could get samadhi very quickly, he could get very nice feelings, and he wanted to stay there. Right? So when they have any unpleasant feelings arising, he would just avoid them, not look at them, and just stick to your breath. Because that's one way of staying calm, peaceful, and not being bothered by the pain. So, although he got a lot of calmness in his meditation, he didn't make progress in his vipassana. Right? So that's one of the dangers. That's why in the Mahasi tradition, although they also teach samatha, the current understanding of samatha in terms of the Visuddhimagga sort of samatha, they do that only to yogis who have done vipassana to their satisfaction. Right? Because vipassana practice is about letting go. Now, whatever comes into your field of awareness, you observe, you let go. You observe, you let go. You observe, you let go. In the Visuddhimagga sort of samatha practice, it is the opposite of that. Whatever state you have, whatever nimitta you have, you try to maintain it and not lose it. Right or not? You have to maintain. You have to take care of the nimitta. And even when you get up from the sitting, you're going to the toilet also, you must make sure that the nimitta follows you all the way. When you're eating also, make sure the nimitta is there in front of you all the time. So it's the opposite, it's grasping and maintaining. So when a person who has done this before and has not had a very good grounding in vipassana, in letting go, very difficult to go from samatha, Visuddhimagga samatha, to vipassana. Because vipassana is about changing, things changing, and a lot of suffering. You see the three signs of existence very clearly, particularly the second one. Yeah, you see it very clearly, and this is opposite to the calm and tranquility that you can get through the Visuddhimagga Samatha, right? So, coming from that background myself, from the Mahasi background, I also don't encourage my yogis to do Samatha straight away. Yeah, you do Vipassana first, make sure you know how to let go before you go on to Samatha. Oh, it's very difficult. I've had yogis who have done Samatha before for many years, coming and finding it very difficult to switch to Vipassana. Right, so this is just sharing. Right. So it's good that you will notice that. If you don't, when you do pure Visuddhimagga Samatha, you're not taught to look at the mind. You're always interested in the object, making sure that your object is there. You are focused on your nimitta or whatever it is. That's all. And if you don't watch your mind, you don't see all these things. All these attachments, all this clinging. You don't see. But if you learn to watch your mind, then you see. Then you can make your own decision. Okay, do you want to follow this desire or not? You know that it's there. It's better knowing that it's there than not knowing at all. Okay. Somebody else want to ask something? Yes.
So Bhante, following the question just now, Bhante advised that it's better to practice Vipassana to a certain level, then we switch to Samatha. So at which level? Is it rising and falling, or at the Sankhara?
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't go to talk about that levels of insight, but you will know about the sort of Vipassana that I'm referring to maybe tomorrow or the day after. Okay, it's part of the workshop. You wanted to share something?
Yeah, Bhante, I start off with Mahasi, of course. Then later I practice Anapanasati. Of course, I get a lot of calmness and all that. Of course, my teacher, Reverend Sujiva, said, Mary, don't do that, you got stuck there, So then I come back again to the Mahasi tradition, and I find that the progress is faster for me, Bhante. And then later I joined Sayadaw Tanzania. Tanzania. And that was so good, because I have less suffering, but yet I just let the mind go and see whatever object arises. And also at the same time, Sayadaw always asks me to relax, Mary, look at the mind only, Then when I went back to Reverend Sujiva in Italy, Reverend said, because Reverend are very particular about the training, they said, Mary, you're allowed to do it. But now when I do this, I was wondering, I was so calm all the time, but of course I'm observing. And each rising and falling is not like ki kalau. It's kind of joining ki, and then look at other thing, and then like a continuous series of awareness of thing. Even breathing, Bhante, it's not like ki lo like that. It's like ki lo go, and like flow lah. So, but very calm. I was wondering, when I compared to the one I do with Mahasi, I really look at pen, which I'm not good at one stage, but later I was teacher helped me through. So I find the progress also very fast, Bhante. So I was wondering, now why I'm so song like, it's not like I attach to it, but very senang,
Because you got the right attitude. Because also it's accumulative. You have done so many for so long.
Yeah.
Whatever you have done in the past is also a support for your present progress.
So I find that I can say I really so afraid of meditation before. When I thought, have to interview, I scared, So now I can say I enjoy meditation. I would say like that, yeah.
Sadhu. Sadhu.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else want to share their experience or any questions?
Just a clarification, Bhante. You know, when you say, people who have done samatha switching to vipassana, they find difficulty. Now, are we talking about vipassana as in the insight, or vipassana as in the Mahasi method?
What do you mean by vipassana in terms of insight?
In terms of insight would be, okay, when you do, samatha, that's why samatha in our answer is, you have both. You know, when you're watching the breath, you can watch the middle of the breath, you can watch the beginning of the breath, the middle of the breath, and the ending of the breath. So that's included in samatha. But when you talk about, so that's also the insight that's also included in that practice. But when you talk about Mahasi, when you talk about vipassana, I think last time we discussed it too. People always think that vipassana is the Mahasi method, the technique. No?
No. I mean, it's just that the Goenka, when I first came back to Malaysia, I heard someone came to complain to me. He said, these Goenka people, they say they are teaching vipassana. Other people are not teaching vipassana. Only they are vipassana.
That's
it's just
right.
like some people, when they ask them what is vipassana, they say vipassana is rising and falling.
That's right.
So that is a misconception. No, vipassana is observing phenomena in terms of anicca, dukkha, anatta, whatever method you use.
So just now when you were talking about the real insight of
I'm
watching
talking about vipassana. I wouldn't like to use the word insight. But vipassana is about distinct seeing.
Distinct. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.